Hi everyone, it's Rev Kymmi.
And I'm Dr. G. And this podcast is Season 1, Episode 16, Sarah Alarid, Tipster Behind the Scenes.
And we also have some updates on some other cases.
Yes, we've done quite a few podcasts now on cases that Kymmy's been involved with in the background with her prophetic gifts. And I've had a chance to look at some of the evidence in the cases where we can get autopsy reports and whatnot. So here are some updates on cases that we've covered.
And before we do, let's remind people, and some people may be first-time listeners, so we want to just give you just a little bit of a background on us. Professionally, I am 30 years litigation and trial paralegal at the top law firms of our country, as well as representing celebrities that you would all know. You can see my bio on my LinkedIn as Kymmi, K-Y-M-M-I, Bloomberg, B-L-O-O-M-B-E-R-G, and I'm obviously also an ordained Christian reverend with prophetic gifts.
And I am a college-educated PhD. And I started out initially, years ago, to be a high school physics teacher. I've had an incredible interest in the physical sciences. And now I have a master's in criminal justice, and I teach criminal justice studies. I am a forensic victimologist and crime mapper and gang specialist, and I have lectured internationally as well as in almost every state in the Union in the United States. And I've written a book on case studies in drowning forensics. I have also been on the Oxygen Network. I did a 6-episode series. The case studies the series was called Smiley Face Killers, The Hunt for Justice. And I did that with 3 very, very experienced New York detectives who did everything while they were there, specializing in homicide. And I've worked with world-renowned and forensic pathologists, one whom everyone surely knows from the series, and that's Dr. Sarah Alarid. So, anyway, that's our background. And having met Kymmi, I have learned more and more about the gifts of the Holy Spirit, and in particular the gift of prophecy. So, here we go.
Yeah, if anybody wants to dive into a little research, what is this prophetic? Not calling myself a prophetess or a prophet, but it's the gift of prophecy. So you need to go to the Holy Bible or Google it and look at the book of Acts, chapter 2. And you'll learn a little bit there. It says that daughters will prophesy.
Yep. Okay. Here are some updates. The first one is Kiely Rodni in upstate California. And this one is right up my ballpark here. With regard to the sad death of Miss Rodni, I've reached out to an extremely experienced New York Police Department detective sergeant who is an established expert in drowning forensics. He co-authored the book with me. I have also contacted perhaps the most well-known medical examiner in the United States, and he is also internationally renowned forensic pathologist. When it comes to making a deceased body speak for that victim, that is your man. And I will resist the temptation to name drop. I shared my questioning of the official findings with both of them, and they agreed. They agreed with my assessment. I explained my scientific observations of the forensic evidence as it was presented in the autopsy and toxicology reports, as well as case evidence. And I also explained things such as the absence of specific post-mortem artifacts, without going into great detail, like lividity and rigidity, rigor mortis and liver mortis and things like that should have been present given the amount of time that Ms. Rodni was supposedly in the water, from when she went missing to when she was recovered. There should be certain things present on her body and described in the autopsy report, and they were not there. Okay? I believe, in looking at the newspaper articles that presented and reviewed every day what was searched, who searched it, how they searched it, how long they searched it, and all that stuff, that area, all those bodies of water, as reported by law enforcement divers, had not only been thoroughly searched, but cleared. In fact, when an outside dive team came in, they said, "Oh, you don't need to search there. We've already done that." And that was the area of the lake right by the party. Right by the party. And that's where she was found.
I think that they cleared the area and told Adventures with Purpose, right?
Yep.
You do not need to search the area where her vehicle was found.
Yep. Don't bother. We've cleared it. Yep.
Yeah, the specific spot where her vehicle was
so
found.
They show up, and 50 yards out and 14 feet down, they find her.
Mm-hmm.
Put their boats in the water, and it's like 35 minutes later, they've got a hit.
I don't believe that they overlooked her.
Yeah.
I believe law enforcement's divers.
And there's also the question of the tow truck driver that was dispatched to an area quite a distance away from the party the next morning. And he said, yeah, it was quite clearly her. I mean, it was the license plate on her car, and he described her and who she was with and how she was nervous and et cetera, et cetera. Now, how can that be? How can that guy be so errant and actually see that vehicle on land some 6 to 8 hours after it should have already been in the water? Well, that clearly says that she wasn't in the water at that time. So when you look at all those assumed facts, and I put that in quotes, of this case, they don't match with the scientific post-mortem artifacts that we can physically measure and see and everything else. Something is amiss in this case. And I hope someone with authority takes a second look at it.
And then the obvious things, as we recall, just to name one, the windows were down.
Yeah. The window's down, one's broken. Yeah, something just doesn't match up there.
No. If you're in a hurry to get out, we naturally go in and out door, right? Repeatedly, we could do that in our sleep. But she escapes to the back? No, I don't believe it. When the windows are down?
Well, if you have to break out a window, they do make tools for folks to, if you live around water, like I did back in Minnesota, that you can break the window so you can get out. But the window was down. So as the car flips and starts to fill with water, you don't have that pressure against the door that's stopping you from opening the door to get out.
Right, we would naturally do that. But you're talking about escaping, finding something. You guys, if you don't know, imagine sitting in your front seat, okay? And you turn around, you have a headrest, right? You know how those could come up and out?
Oh, yeah.
Now, there's two metal, right, pieces.
Mm-hmm.
You're supposed to actually take that out, guys. If any of us have gone underwater in our cars or something similar, you're to take that out and use it to break your windows.
Yeah, you don't need.
I want everyone
special hammers.
Seriously, next time you're in your car, I want you to do that. Look and see remove it, and see how you can use the metal on that piece to now break your window. Okay?
Yeah. Yeah, you're not going to break it trying to kick it out or punch it out in most cases, especially if you're underwater with the pressure against the outside of the window.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for sharing that. I actually wasn't aware of it. That makes perfect sense that you could use that headrest.
Yeah, and then, of course, I want to throw in one more thing that's irrelevant to the story. But, guys, if you don't know, you can text 911. If you need to hide under a bed or you have to be quiet in your closet, I want you to know the officers will talk to you by text.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's move on to the next story.
Okay, so what's the next one?
Okay, so the next update is on Kristin Smart's case in San Luis Obispo, which was moved to Salinas. Mm-hmm. And defense, I got an email from the courthouse, the liaison, and had given me an update that defense filed a motion to move Paul Flores' sentencing. So that motion will be considered by the court this coming Friday, December 2nd, 2022 at 9 a.m. So right now, the sentencing stands for the following Friday, December 9th, 2022. So if that motion is granted this coming Friday, then they will move that December 9th date to whichever date that the court orders it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right, and the next one, boy, I'm really getting tired of reading stories in the newspaper about parents brutalizing their children. I mean, I just read one, what was that, 11-month-old?
Yeah, 11-month-old, and they have like an arrest warrant out for somebody.
Anyway, here we go. Orrin and Orson West, up in Bakersfield, California. They were murdered over in California City, in all likelihood.
Yes, they were.
Yeah. And the boys' bodies have not been found yet. The trial was postponed until next year, and to January 30th, 2023. And the defense has asked for more time to go through all the evidence. I mean, I could list this. The evidence they're getting is just crazy. But they're asking for more time to go through all the evidence that they're receiving because, they want to do this constitutionally correct and everything. So they need time to properly prepare a defense for their clients. Now, at the same time, the court has issued a protective order to keep Trezell and Jacqueline West away from their 2 remaining biological children as well as their 2 remaining adoptive children. And this court order is to ensure that the parents do not persuade, intimidate, or talk about the case with their children.
And an update on Abby and Libby in Delphi, Indiana. Richard Allen was arrested based on forgotten statements by investigators that he made. Believe it or not, he told an officer that he was on the bridge that day.
Oh.
And they forgot all about it.
Crazy.
That info was forgotten or buried. He was arrested when it resurfaced. So his pretrial hearing is set for January 13, 2023, and trial is set for March 20th, 2023.
Okay, and the next case, another child, Quinton Simon out in Savannah, Georgia. We had talked about the search, talk about sticking to their guns until they found that poor child, the chief out there. Human remains were discovered in the landfill. They finally found something, and the volunteers were out there for weeks searching for something, and then they found them, and they took those remains in, and the recent announcement is that those remains have been identified using DNA as belonging to Quinton. So now they do have at least evidence of the homicide in that case. And you have any more for us, Kymmi?
Yeah, the next case update is on Rachel Castillo in Simi Valley, California. It came out that the medical examiner's autopsy report came out with the manner and cause of death as homicide and multiple sharp force injuries. And we inadvertently gave kudos and credit to law enforcement investigators on that case as the ones solving it. And of course, they're doing their best, and of course we know that. But we found out later that actually the kudos and credit should be given to the father, Rachel's father. He's a retired FBI agent, and his colleagues went with him, and they worked the case behind the scenes. So we were working the case at the same time he was, without knowing it. We read in the paper that, that law enforcement didn't know who, had no suspects, etc. They knew absolutely nothing.
No motive.
So that's why, people reached out to me and asked that I could please help law enforcement with my gifts. So anyway, that's why we're working parallel to Rachel's father and its FBI friends. We didn't know that, but they did an extremely great job. And how difficult that must have been to find his own daughter buried, etc. My heart goes out to him.
Oh boy. All right, so Kymmi, that brings us to today, and today is Monday, November 28th, and what is so special about today? What did you do today?
Well, today we went out to, I realized that, Sarah Alarid's, she's a missing person case that I worked in 2013. I realized that her 10th anniversary is coming up from her date of going missing.
Yes, she went missing New Year's Eve, right? Last seen at about 3 a.m. on January 1st, 2013. So here we are coming up on the 10th anniversary. And, from what you've told me, this really is an incredible case and an incredible day for you, isn't it? Isn't this like only the second missing persons case you worked? I mean, the first one was Kristin Smart, right? 1997, and then again in 2021, and this story is so important and significant relative to your testimony about the gifts of the Holy Spirit, in particular the gift of prophecy. So let's explore this case, and what else did you do today then?
Well, I drove up there. I bought some flowers for Sarah to go up to her place of recovery and lay down flowers for her.
Yes. Yes, and we'll talk a little more about that. I went with, and wow, coming from the farmland, that is a very considerable and significant change in terrain. Okay.
So, I just want to expound on my gifts. You could, like I said, you could find it in the Holy Bible, Acts 2 through 17 through 18. It states that in the last days it shall be, God declares, that I will pour out my Spirit on all flesh, and your sons and your daughters shall prophesy, and your young men shall see visions, and your old men shall dream dreams. Even on the male servants and female servants, in those days I will pour out my Spirit, and they shall prophesy. Now, I have had visions and dreams on missing person cases.
Oh.
Only a few have I had prophetic dreams. The West case, Orrin and Orson West, that was really, it was very helpful and humbling that God would even do that. Just amazing to help on the case for us to, to understand that they were murdered. Yeah, if anybody doesn't know what I'm talking about, you need to go to that episode and listen.
Okay, now we'll run down through this quickly. The victim in this case of this accidental death, Sarah Alarid, was 19 years old. She was born in April 1993. And she's Latina, hazel eyes, reddish brown hair, a small build, 5'4", about 110 pounds, they reported. And she was at a New Year's Eve party, and she was last seen leaving there about 3 a.m. And off she went. And this was down in Canyon Country, and no one saw her. She's gone, vanished.
I must say that, she was at a party near Sand Canyon area. And I want you to know that I was also living in the same vicinity as she.
Oh.
Where she was last seen.
Oh, so you're very familiar with the roads and the back roads and the terrain and the weather that can be out there. And
Yep.
Okay. Now, there were some search efforts out there. It's not like some of the other cases that we've talked about where they just have these massive, just incredible searches of the water and the air and everything else. But folks, this terrain out there is, it reminds me a lot of Norway on a smaller scale. You have one valley after the next with these very steep ridge lines and mountaintops in between. And then as time and weather and the rain have eroded it, you've got all these intermittent streams and draws and valleys in between them. If you drove off the road, that's it. You're done. You're on your way down. In fact, I'd venture to say that if you took one wrong step off of some of these roads out there, and they're narrow and they're curvy, it's like, give me 10 yards of straight road, just please. And if you were to step off this road, you're talking good luck trying to grab onto something that's going to stop you before you end up at the bottom, 3, 4, maybe 500, 600 feet down. It is crazy out there. So you can imagine trying to search this type of area. About the only place you can really search on foot is on the roads, and then you're kind of peeking over the edge, but you're not going down there. So if you're a brave soul and hardy, well, maybe you can start at the bottom and work your way up a draw or an intermittent stream and look back up the hill, and you might be able to see. It is an absolutely difficult area to conduct a search from the ground. But remember, God sees everything from above, from the side, everything. And they were out there with trucks on the ground. They had 9 horses from the mounted posse. I have here 9 people on the ground in trucks. They had to be driving on the road.
They had a lot of volunteers, right? Hundreds of people.
They had the sheriff's station, Santa Clarita Valley Sheriff's Station search and rescue team was out there. The Los Angeles Sheriff's Department Aerial Bureau, their helicopters were out there.
Really?
And firefighters were up there. They were searching, but it is such a difficult area to
And they
search.
were knocking on doors and giving out flyers. They were on the local radio station, getting the word out there that she's missing.
Okay. So now I want to go through this timeline and let you plug in your activities so people can see how, as this transpired, how God was plugging you into the process and using you as a testimony for Him.
Well, the thing is that I just want to interject and say, this happened a long time ago, and it's not like I took notes on this and what day I went out and what time or anything like that. Yeah. So I unfortunately, I want to give a true testimony here, guys. Not like I'm on the stand in trial, but I am a trial litigation paralegal, and I do want to be honest. This is my testimony about God. It's not about law enforcement ever on any of these episodes or anyone other than God, that God does exist, guys, or how can these things happen? Yeah. Okay, these are miracles that we see on each case. So I just want to say that I'm an honest person. You're not going to hear exact date or time that I was out doing something because I don't remember and I didn't write it down.
Okay. So Sarah went missing on January 1st, New Year's Day, about 3 a.m., and the search began immediately. So in between, like this first week that transpires, January 1st through the 6th.
You mean they're out searching?
Yeah, they're out searching.
I mean, how did I get involved in on this?
Nobody's finding it, so...
So how did I get involved?
Yeah, where do you come in?
You know, I came in on the back end of all the searching and the horses and volunteers.
Mm-hmm.
It's not something, you know, I didn't hear about it. I'm just living my life. And I think I heard in the paper and that she'd been missing and she was somewhat near where I was residing. And so, you know, I always get moved with compassion. I felt sorry for her. And I'd learned about it at night and I was about to go to sleep and I was contemplating and going, nobody can find her. And I felt really, really sorry for her. And I felt sorry for everybody else. See, I'm always, like I said, moved with compassion is what makes me get involved. And I feel sorry for people. So I thought, well, you know, I helped the police before on a missing person case, Kristin Smart in 1997 in San Luis Obispo, California. And I helped them with my gifts, giving them information. So I thought, well, I have gifts I'm going to try. Let's just see what would happen. So I went out like probably the next day. I'm pretty much an immediate person when I make decisions. So I went out and drove the Sand Canyon area, Soledad and Sand Canyon, just in the Sand Canyon area of town. You guys can Google it and look on the maps. There's a Vaughn's there and a 76 gas station, I think. So you guys can see that online, Google Maps. And so I'm driving Sand Canyon just a little. I'm driving, you know, Soledad. I'm sitting in the parking lot at Vaughn's. And then there used to be mobile home parks right there at the corner of Sand Canyon and Soledad, and they've ripped those apart. They're gone.
Okay.
But I drove through all those areas and really just getting a feel. And I felt she was around, you know, this area, you know, broadly around the area.
Yeah.
And then after I drove around probably just a half hour or something, not much, and I drove and went home. Because I remember it was at night. And I'm like, oh, I got to go to work. I'm just going to go home. So that was my first little search. Just driving around for a half hour, using my intuition and getting a feel.
Okay, so you got involved in Kristin Smart early 1997, and now here it is, January 2013, and in between that time,
I'm using my gifts. I'm saved in 97. After Kristin's case, I became a believer and ordained Christian reverend, and went into ministry right away. I was teaching in churches. I did street evangelism. I did hospital ministry 20 years, and whatever else. I did other things too.
But this is only the second missing person case that...
Yeah, I only did 97 because the police on Kristin's case contacted me. So it's like, well, they're asking for help. I'm going to try to help them. And then here, you know, I feel sorry for her. And I'm like, well, it worked before, you know, like my gifts. Yeah. So I'm just going to try because she's lost.
All right. So now I kind of know, I think.
What do I have to lose to try?
The next part of this story, you went to work.
And it was nearby.
And you're on your way home that day, correct? And
oh, no, you mean later on.
Traffic.
After a few days. Here it goes.
Okay,
I did that half hour driving, whatever it was, okay? Wasn't much. But it was good enough to get a clue she's around.
Okay.
I could feel it. So anyway, I moved on and going about my life. And it was just a few days later, and I'm, work at law firms as a litigation trial paralegal in usually Century City, Beverly Hills, or downtown LA.
Okay.
And so I'm coming home from one of those locations, and I'm on the 14 freeway headed northbound. And as you know, everyone knows LA traffic, or, it's congested. at rush hour. So I wanted to get away from the traffic. So I exited Placerita Canyon Road. Okay? So now I'm headed towards Sand Canyon. You guys could look on Google Maps if you want. Then when I get to the intersection of Sand Canyon and Placerita Canyon, I come to a stop sign. So of course I'm going to stop. And as I'm sitting there, the Spirit of God, the Holy Spirit came on me. And I promise you, I was not ever thinking about Sarah's case. I wasn't. I was busy with my life, and I was not thinking. And so the Holy Spirit came on me and revealed to me with revelation and the gift of prophecy that Sarah was up. Remember, I'm still at the stop, right? Yeah. And no one's behind me, so I'm lagging a little longer.
T intersection. Right?
Yeah. And so I usually go left is the direction I go home. But the Lord was showing me, God was showing me, she's up the right hand, Sand Canyon. You go up the ravine. You go up the road, Sand Canyon. And that she had crashed and she's in a ravine. She's up there. And I believed him. I know God's voice. I was being convicted by the Holy Spirit of truth. And I believed him. So, of course, I never thought about going up there to search myself. I've only searched just a little bit on Kristin's case. You guys go to Kristin Smart's episode and listen to the details there. And so I drove home and I researched the reporter who wrote about the family. So I contacted that reporter at the Signal, our local paper, and I told him that I knew about where she is. And that reporter had a family member of Sarah Alarid's call me. And I told him he's supposed to be a police officer, I heard. Okay. And I told him that the Lord told me that she's up Sand Canyon, she crashed, and she's in a ravine. And I thought, that's going to take care of it, right? And I go on my merry way. Mm-hmm. Because I'm not even a hiker, or anything. I was at the top law firms of our country, like with Robert Shapiro, like Ken Starr, who handled Monica Lewinsky's case. I don't want to sound like a snob, but I want you to really understand my mentality, my background, etc., right? At the law firms where I'm at, guys, we even have maids in the kitchen. We do not make our own coffee. We don't get our own things. I even have someone who will do copying for me or, the filings for me and whatever. It's, it's very foo-foo. It's very Princessville is what I call it. It's the highest level pretty much of our country, and we're quite spoiled. And that's just to name just a little bit so people understand that I didn't even hike back then. It was after this case that I began hiking. So anyway, so I thought by telling her uncle, that she's up there, he'd take care of it. And I would go on with my life. But you know what he said? It was shocking to me. He said, I already searched out there. And she wasn't there. I looked myself. Now he's a cop. Huh. So, but no. God bless you, but no, that's not what God said. I didn't argue with him, but in my head, I'm saying this. So, I said, okay, and just let him go. We hung up. So, when I came to a realization, epiphany moment that, guess what? This non-hiker needs to go do it myself. Because, also at that time, I didn't even think, call the cops and report it. I never called the cops. Never emailed them, never, why bother them? They're busy. Like that's not something I would do. As much as I email them today. But, like I'm tight with them now. I love them. Yeah. But, back then, no way. So anyway, most of my best friends are all cops, right? So anyway,
you went back from then, specializing in shopping to hiking.
Yeah, truly, guys, I wore high heels and, like lipstick all the time, even if like I'm watching a movie alone. I have lipstick on, and it's like just total, just feminine, and by no means would I be out in dirt. Okay. I'm just trying really hard to explain my mentality and to have this realization that, oh my gosh, it comes down to me.
Okay.
So,
so that was like January 7th or the 8th, Monday or Tuesday.
And then, you know what? Let me tell you something. Yeah. If anybody, I want to be an ER doctor. And you know what? Maybe you don't make your goal because God laughed and had his own plans for me.
Yeah.
But my plan since I was little was to be an ER doctor. A doctor of some sort, but, mostly ER. That's where my heart was. Yeah. And quite frankly, it still is. Every area of ministry God put me was some kind of emergency situation to help people alive or dead. Okay? I'm in hospitals, ICU, ER, ICU, hospice, and things like that. So I help people as a minister doing that. So here I am, and I have to make a decision. So I had a best friend at the time. He's a CHP officer.
Okay.
So I called him and told him what the situation. So what did I say? And realizing I have to do this myself because I'm not going to wait, I decided that I needed him to train me. He was up in Northern California, and so we're on the phone, and he's training me on the phone of what it is that I need to be looking for and what to do when I go out there. Okay. The princess.
Yeah.
Truly, I'm not exaggerating, okay? You can ask any family member. So anyway, so he trained me of look for things, any kind of evidence when the dirt. You got skid marks, you got broken tree branches, etc., right? Things like that. I'm like, oh, that makes sense, sure. Okay, I'll do that. And then, of course, you're going to get out of the car, you're going to look, and then you're going to drive up a little bit, park the car again. Now get out, now look, and repeat it. This is a long road, guys, all the way to the top, right, to Bear Divide or Nike Base. So it was a task for a woman who's never done this before. That if I broke a nail, that was something.
Okay. So we're talking January 9th now, Wednesday.
I don't know what day I was out there doing this.
2013.
Okay, well, you know what? I do know what day it was because it was the day she was discovered.
Yeah.
So I know that for sure, that one.
And folks, I had to look on a map to see where this was. Bear Divide. The road goes up, and Sand Canyon Road, and then at some point it actually changes names. But up there at Bear Divide, that's where you'll find the U.S. Forest Service Bear Divide Fire Station. And most of the folks out here, from what I understand, they might not know about that. And you called it Nike Base, but more officially, and I'm a historian, I love military history, so I had to look it up. It's Nike Missile Control Site. And that's up there near there, and it gets pretty high up there. And at some point, you're actually up in the clouds.
I just want to interject that, unfortunately, I'm just going to be honest. When I was in high school, graduated in 1985 from Canyon High School, some of us kids would go up there. Nike Base, people would the only thing we had to do, the high school kids is, we would go and drink at, up at the Nike Base. I went up there once or twice, and I don't recall drinking up there, but I do remember going up there a few times. So I was familiar with that road, that I've been up there before.
So off you
go. But a long time ago.
All by yourself in your car searching for Sarah.
Yes, sir.
All by yourself.
Yes, I was. And you know what, guys? You need to look at this place. I'm going to post on my Facebook. I filmed it out there today so that you can see what it looks like. Go to my Facebook and look at some videos I shot so you can see what it really looks like. For those who are interested. Facebook, I'm found as Kymmi, Kymmi, Bloomberg, BLOOMBERG. So you can see the real thing.
So can you describe to us how you conducted your search?
Yeah, I did. That I would drive up, I would stop in a safe spot, because you can't always stop. It's that narrow.
Yeah.
It's one lane in each direction. And some spots you can't, there's no room to even pull over. So I would go out and search on foot, just, to the edge of the road, and be looking with my eye. Mm-hmm. I'm not going way out there. So then I'd get back in my car, I'd go up a few more feet, wherever I stop searching with my eyes, then go back up, then, just some common logic. And so, like my friend trained me. And so I was creeping up and slowly. And I think, I'm a morning person, so I think I was out there. I probably started around 7 or maybe earlier, 7 a.m. And as I'm creeping up, I want to back up. My dad was telling me that he did not want me to go out there. He's like, Kim, can't you wait? Because my CHP friend that I mentioned who trained me over the phone was coming down to visit me the next day. But I could not wait. Okay. If anybody knows me, if I know that Sarah's up there or whomever, I can't wait. That's wrong with me. Mm-hmm. And I tried to get her family to, but that didn't work. So I had to do it, and I wasn't going to wait more. So I had to have probably gone the next day after talking to her family. And so, that was not easy for me at all. So I kept doing that. So also my best friend, the CHP officer, also told me that he wanted me to wait. Neither one, my dad or he, wanted me to go because I went out there by myself. And so I said, no. So anyway, I got a call from my dad, checking on me. And he told me that he saw I was almost to the very top, okay? Mm-hmm. I wasn't up to as far as, but near to where Sarah's vehicle was found from a helicopter flying over. Randomly spotted it. They were not looking for her vehicle. So anyway, my dad called me, and he said, Kim, it's being announced on the TV that they found the gravesite, a suspicious gravesite, and he told me where. So I left this scene at Sand Canyon, doing my search, creeping up, and I was almost all the way to the top. And so I left, and I remember seeing like ABC News vans or whatever they were, some media vans. And of course, I didn't have navigation on my phone or anything back then. And so I followed vans and tried the media vans, to find out where this gravesite was. Okay. But that was a failure because after a while, the driver got really smart, saw that I was following, so he pulled over to get rid of me. Oh. Mm-hmm. So then I thought, this was a failure. So I went back. I didn't find wherever the grave was that they were talking about. So anyway, then I drove back to Sand Canyon, and then there was a helicopter there and trying to retrieve her body. And so then I didn't have the story back then that a helicopter inadvertently, Los Angeles Sheriff's Department helicopter, was flying over, going to that other grave where I took off, right? And as a result, they inadvertently spotted Sarah's car down in the ravine. Thank God. So when I return, a few of their guys are there. And so I'm there before all of, the police are there and putting up the yellow ribbons and etc. because I was with Sarah's family behind the yellow ribbons. So
you were inside the crime scene at that point.
Yeah, I'm there before media got there on site because they did arrive. and they jammed up the road, and especially with emergency vehicles on the Sand Canyon side. I couldn't go back home the Sand Canyon, the Santa Clarita direction on Sand Canyon Road. I had to go back to the San Fernando Valley down a different direction. So eventually, I was standing out there behind the yellow ribbon from what the police put up, and I was smoking at the time a few cigarettes a day, and I was nervous and upset, right? Of course, this is upsetting. And how accurate it was that God said she was there, and here she is, she's there. And so it freaked me out a little, right? It was emotional, and plus how sad the situation was. So what I did was I was smoking, and there were females there. I don't know how they were related to her, maybe her sisters. And so they were asking me for cigarettes, and all of us were smoking because we were a nervous wreck.
Okay.
And so I do recall we actually, because I don't usually have one cigarette after another, and I don't think they did either, but we were all chain smoking together. And I would say to them, "Are you guys sure that this is Sarah?" And they said, "Oh, yeah, it's her." And see, what's going on is the helicopter at the time is going down in the ravine. They're going down the rope and going to retrieve her body. Okay? That's what's going on. And we're standing there just watching and smoking. And so then after a few minutes go by, 10, 15 minutes, whatever it is, I then nervously say again, "Are you girls sure that this is Sarah for sure? Do we know this for sure?" And they said, "Oh, yeah, definitely." See, because I never saw her vehicle, right? I don't know that for sure, that it's her. But they were adamant that it is her. So then after a while, another cigarette goes by that we're all smoking together. And then I'm starting to realize, I'm back here with her family behind this yellow line, and nobody else is back over here. We were on the Bear Divide side to the forest ranger. Her uncle worked there at the ranger station. So, and then I remember I had to go to the bathroom, and the girls gave me the code to get in. So I walked down to the station, the forest station, and went to the bathroom. And when I came back, "Are you girls sure? Are you positive it's Sarah?" And they're like, yeah, it's her. So then I'm like, wait a minute. My job is done here. My job was to find Sarah. And so why am I here is what I was thinking to myself. So then I wanted to leave them alone. I wanted to leave the family alone. And so then I told myself, I'm going to leave. So I said goodbye to them and my condolences to them. And the police officer removed part of the yellow line, the ribbon, and let me out. And I drove down the opposite direction that I would to go home. I couldn't go the Santa Clarita way. Down Sand Canyon, it was blocked.
Why
by
not?
Emergency vehicles, media. I remember a blue van being there. That's ABC. So I went the direction to the right, which is San Fernando, down to, I don't even know, is it Little Tujunga? I've only gone down that twice. Today we did, and 10 years ago, the day that I was up there. So anyway,
yeah,
I wanted to give them their privacy. I wanted them to be able to mourn privately without me being there. Even though I may have helped them by giving them cigarettes, we were all really nervous.
It would take some deep diving, a little deeper investigation into some reports and tracking some folks down. But I found this quite interesting, and perhaps some of our listeners were piecing this together like I was as I heard the story from you, and as I was reading newspaper articles about the events that morning. And having been on site and seen what it's like, and I find it interesting that folks were looking. This is like I said, a super curvy road. I haven't driven on anything like this since I was in southern Austria. I mean, it is curvy. and down in the Alps, back when I was in the Army. But when you get up in there, the road it changes names. It goes from Sand Canyon Road, and you get up to this point where it's a Santa Clara truck trail. And
it's called Bear Divide.
That's where it's called Bear Divide. And then from there on down, it turns into Tahunga Canyon Road.
Yeah.
And it is right before you get to the Bear Divide is where Sarah's car was. Mm-hmm. Now, I would love to get the flight plan and everything else.
Yeah, the backstory on it.
But the way it's reported is, as this search and rescue chopper is on its way to that other gravesite that was reported at that time, they looked down and saw another car at 9:15 a.m. and said, "Oh, there's something over here." And they continued on their mission. Now, at that point, you're still on the ground, Kymmi, driving around.
Well, I don't know.
Still driving around.
Yeah, I was preceding them driving,
really,
for sure, flying
really
over.
Wondering if, like I said, God sees everything from the side and from the top, and he certainly has an overhead view that we don't have. And I'm wondering, did God place you on that road at that time to draw their attention towards you so they would look down and see Sarah's car 350 feet down in that draw?
Well, I was right
ravine.
there at that vicinity.
Yes.
So I was right near there.
Was that a coincidence? Was that an accident? Or was that divine intervention on God's part?
Or, because I'm out there searching, you can't really park. And here's a woman parked.
No.
And she's looking down.
Yes.
Right? So they probably see me through binoculars or what have you.
I said, what
and
on
maybe
earth
what is
she
she
doing?
looking for?
What is she doing?
Yeah, what is she looking
You'd
for?
Stand out like a sore thumb out there on that road.
Yeah, and so they were probably looking down. I mean, if they saw me, we don't know unless we can interview them. Or in the alternative,
makes me wonder.
They're trained to look down all the time, be searching all the time. I don't know. I'm not a liar here.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to twist the truth. We don't know. We've tried to investigate, to talk to the person who that was, but we ran out of time. We had to do this podcast because her anniversary is approaching.
Yeah, I'm going to try and do a little more research on that, and maybe later on we can give an update on it.
Yeah,
because I'm leaning that way.
Well, I do have a call into homicide to find out at Los Angeles Sheriff's Department to have someone investigate it, research it on their end to let us know.
I don't believe in coincidences, and I believe God put you on that road that day at that time, so those guys would see you and go, "What is she up to?"
Yeah, what is that lady doing? You're not supposed to be stopped on that road. It's not safe.
Oh, there's no place to stop.
Yeah.
I wouldn't want to stop on there on a bicycle, much less a parked car. Anyway, back to the story. So the same day that they find poor Sarah, the family held an impromptu vigil at Todd Longshore Park back in the Canyon Country. And what was going on with your life the rest of that day?
Oh, you mean, the vigil?
Yeah.
Okay. So let me think. Apparently that night they had a vigil.
Yeah.
But I didn't know about it. And the Signal reporter, the gentleman I called about reaching her family members, remember? I had called him. So apparently, he called me and he said, I think it was probably the next day on Thursday, he said, "Hey, Kim, did you attend the vigil?" And I said, for Sarah. And I said, no, I didn't know about it, so I didn't attend.
Oh, okay. And the next day, January 10th then, that was a Thursday. What did you do? Did you go to work? What did you do?
Okay, so, remember my friend, the CHP guy?
Yeah.
And my dad didn't want me to go out.
Right.
They wanted me to wait one day, just one day, Kim, because my CHP BFF was coming down from Northern California, remember?
Mm-hmm.
So he did come down the next day. And honestly, guys, I'm a very sensitive person. It's we probably all are, but I was crying off and on for a couple of weeks after this event. Okay? And so when my CHP friend came down, I was in his arms crying and just really upset and moved by this and how accurate, number one, that was God's voice, and hello, she's right. I was right, she's there. But also overwhelmed with the sadness of the incident and the loss of Sarah's life. How, it was very traumatizing to me. So, my CHP friend, we went out there, he wanted to see. He was pointing at the tree limbs and saying, look, Kim, you can see that she went off right here. And, oh, wait a minute. No, it wasn't. I told him with my prophetic gifts, I said, she went off right here. This is what the Lord is showing me right here. And he said, no. She went off probably over here. I said, no, she did not. God is saying right here. We were like arguing.
Okay.
And listen to this. This is a true story, guys. I forgot about it until right now. No, because I just remembered. I forgot all about it. And we're out there arguing. Okay. And he's the expert. But I believe in my gifts, right? If God shows me something, this is what happened. Yeah. So he goes, oh my gosh, Kim. He goes, you're right. He goes, look at the tree branches on the tree. They're broken right there. They're all broken right there. You're right. That's evidence her vehicle went off right where you said. So we were done arguing. So then we decided we wanted to hike down to her vehicle. So we did. And, I think we drove down the road some so that when we walked through the wash area we didn't go down the cliffside.
Oh, my God.
Right? We were creative a different way.
That's a
working with the elevation. Yeah, some other way. It's been 10 years, so that's vaguely remembered. But I do remember looking through her vehicle and finding things. And I found the cutest little pin that you put on your shirt.
Uh-huh.
It was really cutesy. I don't remember what it was, but it was cute. And so I grabbed it.
Okay.
And then, I don't know how many days later the funeral was, but I did attend the funeral. Oh, it was January 19th, 2013 on Thursday. And my CHP friend, and I'm referring to him as that because I want him to have his privacy and not mention his name. We attended Sarah's memorial service together, which was a funeral at Real Life Church in Valencia, California, and that was January 19th. And so I brought that pin with me, and afterwards, it was really hard for me, but I approached Sarah's father after the funeral inside the church, mm-hmm. and I introduced myself, and I told him what God had told me, that I was out there, and explained to him, and that we hiked down, my CHP friend, the next day we hiked down to her vehicle, and I pulled out my pocket, and I said, and I found this in Sarah's car. And I want to cry, but I'm holding it back. And he said to me, he said, that was Sarah's favorite pen. He said, thank you. So he probably has it today.
Good.
Yeah, it's really sad. So, as you can see, this case moved me a lot back then. I seriously cried, guys, for a couple of weeks. It really upset me. And I also realized how gifted I was on missing person cases, which credence goes to God, not me. It's a gift, God using me. So, I'm sorry, I didn't think I would cry, but I do every time I tell this story. The behind the scenes, at least of my perspective, everyone has their story on her case who was involved, right? This is my story and my perspective and what I went through and my testimony.
And I can't believe it's already been 10 years for you. And
yes.
And, it means a lot to me that you share these stories with me, as well as I get a chance to go see where this happened. and then to hear the stories. And I'm really glad to hear that the father got the pin, gave him a little closure maybe. And
I'm sure he still has it today.
So we went out there today, and you took
put down flowers.
You took some pictures, put down some flowers.
Yeah, we bought flowers for her, white ones, because white for me represents peace, and I believe that she is and has been resting in peace.
Yeah.
So I wanted to put that out for her. Sad. It's really sad, for sure. So, we took photos and some video for those who are visual learners who need more than just the audio. You guys can look on my Facebook, like I said, and you can see I shot some while I was on the Placerita Canyon prior to coming to that stop sign of where I had the revelation, the information God told me, so you can see what it looked like, as well as her recovery site.
Yep.
So you could see the ravine and what it really looks like. So anyway.
Well, that was a wonderful story of God's all-knowing.
God cares.
His power. And
God cares.
How much he loves us.
And I'm glad that he sent a helicopter to help us. Because you know what? If you guys really look at the scene in these videos, I want you to look on my Facebook. It's really a big cookie to bite and to chew up all by yourself.
You can,
and a person who shops for a living, okay?
You can stand on the edge of the road and look down and
it's a big
see
place.
maybe,
it's fast.
Maybe 30 yards, and then it slowly disappears beneath you, and no, you can't see the bottom unless you walk around to the top of the draw and look back down it.
Yeah, it's too much for one person. Here it is that
incredible.
Her uncle was a police officer and trained and didn't see her there. You know, it took a helicopter.
Yeah.
So I'm just glad that, she was found.
Yeah.
And being remembered 10 years later.
Okay, well, let's wrap this up. Thank you for the wonderful story.
Yeah, so I want to remind people to please click follow to be automatically notified of new episodes, and please share with your family and friends. And again, like I said, evidence for Sarah's story as well as others, you can find pinned to my docuseries found on my Facebook as Kymmi, Kymmi, Bloomberg, BLOOMBERG.
And if you'd like to reach out to us, then please use Facebook Messenger at Kymmi's Facebook. And we look forward to reading your feedback, your input, and especially requests for your own personal one-on-one session with Kymmi to get your prophetic word from God.
Yeah, so thank you all so much for joining us, and we'll talk to you on our next episode. God bless you.